The Legend of Zelda was released in the United States on August 22nd, 1987. A year later, The Adventure of Link would give people more of the franchise for the Nintendo Entertainment System. Of course, we wouldn't get another Zelda until Link to the Past for the Super Nintendo, but we wouldn't have to wait very long for our Zelda fix. This is a review of the Legend of Zelda game by Milton Bradley, a game for 1 to 4 players. Yes, that's right, you can play this game by yourself or with up to 4 of your friends. This would be one of 3 licensed Nintendo board games made by Milton Bradley at that time. Before we get started, let's take a look at the artwork. You gotta understand that Nintendo hadn't quite figured out what Mario and Link were gonna look like, so you had a lot of variations. In the manual for the first NES game, Link looked like this. Then in Adventure of Link, he looked like this. The board game is based on the first game where Link is a kid. Look at those chubby cheeks. Zelda is the most unrecognizable in this artwork, but to be fair, Nintendo didn't really standardize the artwork until Link to the Past in 1992. We did see some Zelda in the Adventure of Link manual, but there's not a lot to go on, and she's also a redhead during that time. Of course, Zelda would be featured in the Legend of Zelda cartoon in 1989, but who really considers that canon?
Excuse me, princess.
So let's dive into the game. This is a simple board game that's made for the ages 6 and up. Your goal is to travel through 6 levels and defeat monsters and rescue Princess Zelda. Playing with 4 players is optimal since the less players you have, the harder the game will be. Each player takes turns controlling Link. You start out with 3 hearts each and gain more hearts by defeating monsters in each level. You roll the dice to determine how many spaces you can move. Land on a white space and the turn is over. A yellow space will allow you to pick a random tile. Uncover a magic tile and you can move on to the next level and keep that tile as a heart. Uncover a monster tile and you have to fight it. Each monster has a number in the left hand corner, and that's the number of swords you must roll in order to defeat the monster and collect a heart if available. If you're playing with 4 players, then each player rolls their own die at the same time. If you fail to defeat that monster, then everybody in the party loses a heart. If you beat the monster, only the people who threw swords get the extra heart. You rinse and repeat this turn order as you progress through the final level. The game is over when someone gets the Triforce and rescues Princess Zelda, but there's a twist. In order to win completely, you need to roll all 4 dice and roll 4 swords after you get Princess Zelda. If you don't roll all 4 swords the first time, you can keep your swords and then roll the remaining red squares to attempt a Yahtzee, complete the 4 swords and win the game. Failure to do so will move on to the next person and you rinse and repeat until somebody rolls 4 swords and ends the game. Of course, you can lose the game if any of the players runs out of hearts before finding Zelda. If you end the game and everyone is still alive, the player with the most hearts wins. As I mentioned earlier, you can play the game with less than 4 players and the game changes slightly, but it's cool that you can play by yourself. You roll all 4 dice at the same time and magic tiles can be lost if you get hit. Also, you don't have to fight anybody for the Triforce if you beat it. This method is the hardest because you can only start with 3 hearts and you can lose the magic tiles. Given that this game is based heavily on chance, it's pretty difficult to get through all 6 levels, but it is doable. Single player has the most replayability, but it does get old really quick. It's kind of in the sense of Candyland or Chutes and Ladders, but at least you can play Candyland over and over again, but there's only so many scenarios that you can play with Legend of Zelda. If you are looking to play this game, be forewarned that it can get pretty expensive to find a complete copy. I spent $100 on mine a couple of years ago, but it looks like you can find them for a bit less. Even if the pieces are missing, you can get reproduction parts as well if that's your thing. Or you can just reprint the entire thing and play through it. I'm surprised somebody hasn't made an app for this and just called it Legend of Zelda or something. Overall, the game is a nice collector's piece. Having the artwork alone is worth it to me, but as a board game, it's not really worth the price as an adult. And it's probably not something that you want your kids handling since it's so old and pricey. Maybe Nintendo will make a new one, or just maybe another version of Clue and Monopoly. And that wraps it up for the review. If you liked this video, give it a like, and if you're new here, consider subscribing for future retro and modern gaming content. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Super Nicktendo, and I'll see you next time.